This training video will focus on Advantage Acre today, and specifically the Scouting App tool. We're going to look at the basics of using the Scouting App. My name is Jeff Jocelyn. I'm a digital ag field specialist in the central area for LG Seeds. So today we're going to look at four aspects of the Scouting App: home screen, data sync, adding new fields called Quick Create, and the scouting trip itself. We'll look at the basics for each one of these. The home screen opens up to the map view in all cases as the default. There's a lot of information here, and we want to walk through that right now. So first, let's start with the GPS blue dot. That's the location of you and your device that you're holding. So that's always going to be there no matter where you're at in using the tool. The green pins are going to be the location that marks the middle of a farming operation. The map box arrow itself in the bottom left corner will zoom you into your location, so you'll see yourself in a field or wherever you're at when you're located looking at the app. The magnifying glass, as always, is a search, and we can search for fields using this tool. The three lines in a circle, sometimes called the hamburger, is the menu. We'll open that up and take a look at that when we talk about scouting reports. Kind of hidden in the bottom right corner in the Caribbean Ocean here is the information eye, and in this case it's information about the map tools themselves, something if you want to go deeper and dig into a little more information. And finally, the two arrows in a circle is our refresh button, which is our data sync for the Scouting App. So when we're on home screen in the map view, we can zoom in using the two finger slit out to move us closer, like you see in the left screenshot, and much closer as you see in the right screenshot. Remember, you can also tap on the map box arrow to zoom right into where you are at. Okay, so either way will get you there. If you have a field shape that you can see, whatever size it is, regardless of how close you're zoomed in, if you tapped on that field, you immediately start a scouting trip. The other screen that is still a home screen, but you have to select it, is the list view. And down at the bottom of the screen under that sort by grower, we'd be tapping on list, so it's orange instead of map that would be in the map view. In this case, we're going to see the fields displayed alphanumerical from their farming operation that they're part of. Okay? But we have a couple of choices here about how we select a field. So we can tap on anything that we see on our list, and we can scroll up and down in the list to find what we're looking for. Again, in alphabetical order, it's not too bad. But we can shorten it up a little bit by selecting by grower, or by distance, or by stage growth. So if we click on that, the sort by grower, we tap on it, we're going to be able to choose which one of those three designations we want to use. I have distance selected here, so you can see the order has already changed. It's no longer an alphabetical order. It's an order based on what's closest to me when I opened this up wherever I was located. And finally, we can have the growth stage that we can look at as well. We can sort by biggest or smallest plants that we have in the field. One more aspect that we have is that search, the magnifying glass up in the top right corner, and when we tap on it, we have a search bar that opens up. I've typed in Cisco, as you can see here, and as soon as I did, I have three fields here that have a name of Cisco in their name, and I can choose whichever one I want to tap on to start my scouting app. Okay? Scout my trip, I should say. Okay, so that's the basics of the home screens, the main things we want to look for. Let's talk about data sync before we actually talk about doing a scouting trip itself. Why is this very important to our conversation? Well, you can see in the middle of your page it says it's required. Let's take a look at why. First reason is that although the Scouting App upload to Advantage Acre is automatic, whatever we put in automatically shows up in our Advantage Acre account whenever we do it, the download from Advantage Acre to the Scouting App itself is a manual. Remember, the Scouting App was purchased by AgReliant. It's an outside tool, not created by us, so we have to do a manual download of information. What information are we moving manually? Well, anything that we have updated since the last time we were in the Scouting App, and for many of us that may be since last year because we haven't had the Scouting App open since harvest time. That means if we've added new linked user accounts to our account, they're not showing up in the Scouting App till we do the data sync. Same way with any new growers we've put under us, any fields we've added under that particular account that we're in, and any fields that have planting plans in place that would have growth stages to be exhibited. None of that's available to us if we don't do the data sync. So we have to go through that process, and it would be wise to go through that process when you have Wi-Fi connection, because if it's been a while and you have a lot to transfer, it's going to take a little while to do that. What does it look like? Well, we're back here to our main screen. Again, we're in map view, but in my map view, I'm simply going to go down and tap on my refresh arrows, and it's going to immediately kick me to the second screen that you see, which shows the data loading, or loading data I should say, and you see the circle that's thin. Looks just like the app download that you see from the App Store when you're bringing an app into your device. It's doing this exact same thing, or when you update that app. It's doing the exact same thing that you would see there. In the third screenshot, you can see that the line is thick now, working its way back around to 12 o'clock. Once it completes the circle, as you see on the right hand side, it looks very similar to the first screenshot, but now you see the names of the account names showing up on there. That was not there before the data sync. The wheels are not spinning. The circle is closed. It's went away. We've moved all our data. My advice would be just think of one field that you know that you added new and look to make sure it's in there before you go out to do your scout. Okay, let's move on and talk about Quick Create. So anyone using the scouting app can add new fields for existing accounts, can add new fields for prospects, can add new fields while they're in the field. So in other words, you're out there, you're away from the office, you can put a new field in right there, and you can add a scouting trip as soon as you put that field in. That might be to do a customer service report. It might be to say we're putting signs up here. It may be just to figure out that you finally know where a guy's field is at because you saw him out there and you want to record that. Any of that's possible. One reminder here is that the linked account that's a user account, or the grower account that is under the account that we're in, whoever that might be, is required for us to add a field from scratch. What is also required is that account must at least have one field in it. You see parentheses there with acres. So if you, in your Advantage Acre main list on your page, your main screen, you see an account and it says 0 acres. Somebody new you've added this year and they haven't done anything yet. You would not be able to add their fields from scratch until you put one field in to go with. That can be a throwaway field or a dummy field that you're going to get rid of later. You can always add a field, and if you don't put records into it, you can easily delete it. But that has to be in there before you go out to add the field in from scratch. And when we do so, we're creating a 50-acre square field around the device. We can edit it later in Advantage Acre. We'll walk you through that. But while you're there, it automatically uploads that new field to Advantage Acre, and any scouting that you do at the same time is automatically saved in that Advantage Acre account. So let's take a look at adding a new field. I'll go back to a screenshot you saw earlier where I'm zoomed in. You can see my location. You can see that I'm driving up to some fields that I already have in here, perhaps to do a scouting trip. I may want to add a field in from scratch as well. If you look at the very top right corner, you can see two fields that overlap with each other. This makes the point that just like in Advantage Acre, your fields, if you have multiple fields within an account, they will all show up. In the scouting app, all your fields are showing up no matter what account you're in. So they're all there anyway. Okay? In this case, the rectangle field was added by Advantage Acre. You can see that it matches a common land unit, but the square field looks like it's overlapping that field and another. And if you think about it, it's just County Road below it, so it's overlapping the field as well. That's a field that's been added by Quick Create, something we're going to walk through here. So that Quick Create is always going to go around wherever you're standing, and that field was obviously put in with the device not being very far from the road, so it overlapped in both cases. And we'll talk about how to deal with that. Okay? Bottom line is we need to add a field under an account. So we have to choose what account we want to do. In this case, I have it arrowed down to where you could, or where I have scrolled down to where you can see my name and a prospect name that I have in here. I can add a field under either one. If I wanted to go under a different account, I want to make sure I go to that account, to the end of the field list on that account, and find the plus add a field. So all I'm going to do is to say I want to put it under that Jeff Jocelyn account. I'm going to add the plus field by clicking on it. As soon as I do, this menu screen pops up. That's your last screenshot here on this page. Okay? You can see that on the left-hand side, there are 3 red dots that denote a required field. So those 3 pieces of information are required. On the right-hand side, we have an edit pencil in every slot. So there are 5 edit pencils there. Crop and planting date are not required to get a field put into the scouting app here. Okay, so what we're going to do is one at a time, starting at the top, we're going to tap on an edit pencil and put the information in for that segment of the quick create. So the first one I'm going to click on, the edit pencil for set field name. When I do that, it brings this first screen up. I'm going to start typing. I can cancel that out, start over again, or I can say done. I've got a good field name in there. When I click on the done, when I tap on the done, it's going to take me back to the screen we just left with the 5 edit pencils. Then I'm going to go down to my second edit pencil, tap on it. That's going to take me to the farm. That'll take, once I tap on a farm, whichever farm I select, in this case it'll be Black Dirt Farms, it'll take me back to that screen with the 5 edit pencils. One more time, I'm clicking on the crop. It is optional, but I'm going ahead and put it in here because I see that it's standing corn stalks, and I do not think it will go to corn this year. So I'm choosing soybeans. You can see we can put in other crops. We can even put in prevent plant. Every case, when I put it in and touch whatever I choose, it reverts back to the page you see on the right-hand side here. As you can see, it's already completed down through the boundary area, so I'm going to get a little out of sequence to try to save slides here. I want to make a point that it will not have the 50 acres there when I have put the rest of the information in, and I'm simply the last time, and this is what I would save to last, I'm going to tap on that edit pencil one more time, and that's going to bring me to the screen view that you see on the left-hand side of your screen. And I put a box around the 2 options that I have with this field boundary. So now I'm going to create a field boundary. Start recording would be where I want to record the perimeter by hand. It's might be a small plot in the field that I simply want to walk a 400 by 400 plot and just put that in and keep that as a field separate. It may be that I'm there with the grower and it's an odd field. It's not that big. He's got a 4-wheeler there. I can turn this on, jump in the 4-wheeler with him, ride the perimeter of the field, close out that polygon, and save it. Either way, that'll work. But the majority of the time, we're probably going to be out there on our own, and we're going to want to create a field from scratch. That's the quick create. So once we tap on the quick create, the middle screen pops up. That middle screen tells us that we created a 50-acre field. Do we want to cancel that, or do we want to move forward and save it? We want to hit OK. Once we hit OK, we will see the screen then, as we see it on the right-hand side. The 3 categories that I filled out earlier are done. I have skipped the planting date. I now have added the 50 acres. You'll see that showing up there. That'll be gone when you initially go to the screen. So it's there now. Now that I know I have my acres, I have all the required fields, I am going to go ahead and tap on save, and I am ready to start a scouting trip. Okay? So the field loads. I can slide my fingers out here. You can see this was done after the fact, so you don't see the blue GPS dot. But I can do this in my field records looking at it later. And this is a square field that overlaps the highway just like my last example field. I have access to all my scouting tools now. I can scout outside that boundary. I can go west, north, or south of it if I want to. I know the boundary extends across the road into another field. I don't want that there. I can fix that later with Advantage Acre. So I get back to Advantage Acre, or you ask the grower to take a look at it, or the dealer, whatever you'd like to do. I'm going to simply tap on the field, click on the field in my PC in Advantage Acre, or tap on it in my iPad for that matter, and then tap or click on the edit pencil. I'm going to select that edit pencil to open up my field edit tools like you see here. You can see in green the square 50 that we've just added in this field, and you can see in a gray with a white outline, and you can see my cursor hand hovering on it. That is a common land unit. The reason that's there is I have went ahead and tapped on the toggle for the common land units, and I have cursor hovered in there to activate that field. So while I have a square, and that's where my scouting trip is at as well, the field actually looks like the one in the white boundary that's grayed out. So what I want to do now is I want to modify my boundary of the square field to match the real boundary of the field in there. So I'm simply going to go to the edit boundary outlines, and when I do that, you're not seeing that in front of you, but I will have dots now on my square. And I simply started dragging those dots over into place, into where the actual CLU was at that I just looked at, so I know where my boundary needs to go. And I simply tap on bright dots to get rid of them, type on the dull dots, the faded dots, to add one on each side of that, and create enough dots and drag them around to create the boundary that I want to. So it'll take me a minute or so to do that. And now this field that I created from scratch that I had no idea where it was before, maybe no idea of its existence, is now in the Advantage Acre account that I can put records into and I can monitor here going forward. And finally, last but not least, the scouting record that we did has been saved. Okay, so it's been put in here. So I made 2 scouting trip notes when I was out here in this field. How did I get them opened up? The first thing we want to do is click on Field Records in Advantage Acre. And then, because there's been a scouting activity associated with this new field, I'm going to click on the scouting activity notes, the scouting activity itself first, and then the notes on this arrow here right beside that notes. When you see this, when you open it up in Advantage Acre, that arrow will be pointing down. Okay, so this turns it over. It opens up the individual notes. Now you can see at what time I took those notes, the picture, and if I had my app back open, I can see my GPS coordinates. Those do not show up in the Advantage Acre tool itself. Okay, so all my notes are there. Nothing was lost. The field boundary is now correct. Everything's been done with a minimal amount of effort, with nothing lost. My records are there to use wherever I want to. I can go ahead and add a note if I'd like to do that. Okay, so now we've walked through all the basics of the quick create, and we've done the data sync, and we know some basic tools. So now let's use them. So let's do a scouting trip here. We want to make a point that a scouting trip itself is a digital record. And I have here, it takes less than a minute per location, per stop, let's say, in a location, to put this record in. It'll take far less than that often, maybe a little longer than that, depending on how thoughtful your notes are. But the bottom line is, in any one quick short stop, we can record a picture, we can record a GPS coordinates, and we can take notes. While we're out there, the entire time we're out there, the scouting app is tracking both our path and our time. As you saw in the notes I just opened up, it records the time, so it records the time in and the time out when you're doing your trip. If you tell somebody you took a couple hours walking their field, it's going to prove it. If you tell someone it took a couple of hours and you only made one stop, it will prove that as well. But I think the bigger point here is we often don't get credit for the good work we do out in the field and really where we were at and what we saw, and help him look at that himself later, or to have some appreciation for what you've done when you were out there in the field. So the scouting tool does all of that for us automatically. What it also gives us is the ability to instantly share the trips that we take. We can upload them automatically to Advantage Acre, so we know that happens without us doing anything. But we can also email scouting reports right from the field, right when we're cooling off with a cold glass of water with the air conditioning in our truck, or we're drinking that hot cup of coffee in the thermos when we're trying to warm up in the truck, whatever the case may be. So let's take a look at putting a scouting trip in. So again, we have our 2 views back to our main screen, either our map view or our list view. Either one will get us there. We have multiple paths to select what field we want to look at, but all of it starts by tapping on a field in the scouting app and open the field up. The first screen we see is a scout trip screen. We should also see our GPS location. Here you can see I was standing right on the edge of the field, about to enter the field when I started to take this first screenshot. So I'm simply going to tap on Start Trip, and had I done that before I moved, it would start at a dot recording my location as that blue dot moves across the field. I think maybe it's barely started there, but you can't quite see it yet. Okay, now I'm ready to record something in the field. So what I want to do is tap on the plus in the bottom right hand corner of my screen to open up my scouting tools. Once I've done that, I have the ability to tap on a note to add it, or currently I have the ability to also check my library out. Right now we don't have the growth stages showing up. Those should be there. We do not have the stand count estimate tool showing up there. That will be added later in as well as the yield estimate. So you'll have multiple tools at your disposal. There are some other icons on the main screen of tools that are available. That one in that top right corner showing layers would be where we upload field data. Remember, this is an outside created tool, so we don't use all of those tools currently. The only point I would make about the library and that problem tool before I go into it is basically all that's doing is giving you a list of pests, whether it be disease, insect, weeds, could be herbicide injury. If you're looking for a proper name, if you're looking for a picture that shows you what you're looking at, that would be a good place to turn to that library. The vast majority of the time, however, the note is actually where we're going to record some information. So we're simply going to tap on the note. When we do that, we're always going to get this view. We can go at this in multiple orders, but my suggestion is to mark your location first. So we simply go to tap on using your location. That button is blue, signifying that's your blue GPS dot, and the screen will pull up showing you, as you see in the middle here, what looks like a telescope or a sighting scope here of the blue dot itself. Now that's saying here's where you are. Do you agree with that? If so, hit done. But what you also can do is you can manually manipulate that a little bit. If you're on the edge of the field and it's showing you outside the border that the accuracy of your phone is not quite accurate enough, the cellular reception you have is not quite good enough, and you want to correct that. So you have that ability to do so. Once you've done whatever you want to do, either just record where you're at or change it slightly, hit done. And now you've saved your GPS coordinates, as you see there on the third screen. They're ready to go. Now we're ready to add more, and I would suggest adding photo next. So when we click on the add photo, it brings our camera up. We can click on the shutter and take a picture. Simple as that. The majority of the time, I think we want to stay in a portrait mode. There are some views in the tool which will allow you to see it in landscape, but when it comes back to Advantage Acre and you try to open it up, landscapes will get turned on their side. So I would suggest leaving it in portrait mode, snapping on the shutter, and now you have your picture added. There's your GPS and your picture that quickly. Certainly much faster than I've taken to explain it. And finally, last but not least, any notes you want to put in. So simply tapping on the note area will bring up your keyboard, will allow you to start to tap your notes in. When you're done with your notes, you can hit save, and that then will save the entire record. You can hit save anywhere along the line, but it does close the record. So if you do it before you add notes, if you do it before you add pictures, you'll have to open another scouting note up and do it over again. Okay? If your keyboard is not visible, and you've done some manipulation, you may also see this orange save button which is hidden by the keyboard often. That works the exact same way. It will save it. If you want to get rid of the picture you took and take another one, you see that X showing up in the top right corner of the screen. You can do that. What I would not recommend you do is clicking on the private. So you don't want to switch that private to green. And the reason for that is, remember, this is again an outside app, and it's been created for a reason that we don't use with currently with Advantage Acre. And if you select private, this note will be locked away from you. You won't be able to see it yourself in Advantage Acre or the scouting tool itself, either one. So it won't be available for you to share or to look at down the road. So leave the private button alone. Learned the hard way, by the way, guys. Finally, once we have done that, then, whether we have just got one trip, one location, one note made like we've done here on the left screen, or I've walked through the field and I've made 5 notes, 5 locations, 5 set of pictures, as I've done on the center screen. In either case, once I go up to the top, and that is now done, not save, we're done, that we know we're back into the trip mode itself, I can save that scouting trip either way, one note or a bunch of notes. And when I do that, it's going to say, do you want to keep going with this? If so, cancel. You want to finish this trip? If so, click finish, and the trip is now done. Okay? Once that's done, we have one last step if we want to take advantage of it. And that is that we can go back to our main screen. We can click on our menu, tap on our menu, and then tap on reports. Not scouting history, but reports. Scouting history is for editing the record, for looking at the record, but not for sharing the record. Once we tap on reports, the screen will bring the reports in from top to bottom. And we need to click on report again. This is not intuitive to go to, you're thinking you got to somehow select this, but you have to go up there to the top and tap on report one more time. That will bring the selectable edit window on the bottom, on the left side of your screen, which is that circle in the white box. Once you tap on that circle, it'll turn orange and you'll have your check mark saying this record is now ready to email. You can do one record or multiple records at a time. Once you have at least one record selected, you tap on continue and move yourself to the comment screen. Again, outside app here, guys. Not sure exactly what the rationale behind this is, but we have opportunity for overall comments and an activity for more specific observations. So we have an opportunity to type something in, but we have to hit continue. If we want to type something in or not, either way, we still have to hit continue to get to the finalized page to do an email. And here you see that I started to type my address in here. I've typed it out completely, but it's still on the to line. It hasn't gone anywhere. This report is not ready to send. What I need to do is I need to tap on add to move that to the line below. And in the middle screen you can see it's been moved down, as well as 2 more addresses have been added. I have the option to click on the plus. That doesn't do the same thing. They're 2 different tools. So add moves us out of the to line into an actual saved email address ready to mail. Plus takes us to our contacts, to our address book, and we can tap on an email address, opening up that contact instead of trying to type it in by hand, because it will not auto-populate for you. So it's either by hand or bring it from your book. Either way, the add or the plus moves those down from the to into the box below, and you're ready to email your report. When you do that, you simply tap on send report. That send report does not go away. The screen does not blank. It will chug, and it will tell you the message has been sent with a check mark. And the send report still is there, so nothing goes away. You can preview your report before you send it. When you turn these 2 tools on right now, the scouting path, it makes sense you want to send that. The economic impact will be there when we add that later on down the road. Okay? And with that, you've sent your scouting report to as many people as you've wanted to, whoever they may be. Okay, one last thing as we finish here. We currently have a bug in the scouting app that causes our note-taking app to flake every once in a while. And we will certainly have times when we don't have good connectivity in the field that we may start a scouting app and then we lose it. We may have iPads that are out in the sun and they're going to want to shut down because they're overheating. And you may say, well, I didn't get a chance to close my scouting trip. How do I do that? Simply, if this happens that you've clicked on the plus and it flakes to the main screen, the middle screen view, go right back and tap on the Advantage Acre tool immediately. You don't have to hesitate. You don't have to do anything with it. Just go right back and tap on your icon. That'll bring this next window up. It says, do you want to recover your trip or do you want to complete it? So for whatever reason, whether it flaked out or you lost it, you lost connectivity, or your battery overheated, in any case, you can finish the trip, or you can simply say, I want to continue. That'll take you about 2 or 3 seconds to go right back to that plus and give it a try. Right now it may flake out multiple times on you. Hopefully by the time you go through this training exercise, it will no longer be doing that. So with that, we have walked through the home screen, the data sync, about adding new fields with Quick Create, about the scouting trip itself, and about sharing the trips from the scouting trip, sharing the reports with anyone you like to, as well as uploading that to Advantage Acre. We hope you found this training video helpful. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to check the support page out on Advantage Acre itself, or to contact support by this phone number or email address. Thank you for joining us today for this video. Hopefully it is helpful to you. It gives you confidence in using this tool. So please use the scouting app to take advantage of every acre out there on your operation. Thank you.